The wind howled like a pack of rabid wolves across the barren Arizona plains, whipping snowflakes into a frenzy that blinded anything foolish enough to venture out. Jack Harlan hunched over his campfire, the flames flickering weakly against the encroaching blizzard. His hands, calloused from years of roping steers and dodging bullets, trembled as he clutched his Winchester rifle. He'd seen his share of death in these parts. Rustlers, outlaws, even a Comanche raid that left his brother's ranch in ashes. But tonight, something felt different. The air carried a whisper of doom, and Jack's gut twisted like it did before a gunfight. Suddenly, a shadow emerged from the swirling whiteout. Not a coyote or a lost steer, but a figure cloaked in tattered hides, staggering forward with three smaller shapes huddled behind. Jack's finger tightened on the trigger. "Who's there?" he barked, his voice cutting through the storm like a knife. The lead figure stopped, pulling back a hood to reveal a woman's face, Apache, by the sharp features and the braided hair peeking out. Her eyes, dark as midnight, locked onto his. She held up a hand, palm out, in a gesture of peace. "Can we warm ourselves?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with desperation. The three children, 2 boys no older than 10, and a girl maybe 5, clung to her skirts, their faces pinched with cold and fear. Jack's heart pounded. Apaches in these parts meant trouble. Geronimo's band had been raiding settlements just months ago, leaving scalps and burned wagons in their wake. But these weren't warriors, they were a mother and her young uns, half frozen in the snow. He scanned the horizon for signs of an ambush, but the storm hid everything. "Why should I trust you?" he growled, rifle still aimed. The woman's gaze didn't waver. "Because if you don't, we'll die out here. And you'll have 4 ghosts haunting your fire." Jack hesitated, the weight of her words sinking in like lead. Ghosts, he'd had enough of those. His wife's face flashed in his mind, pale and lifeless after the fever took her last winter. Slowly, he lowered the rifle. "Get in the cabin. But one wrong move, and I'll put a bullet in you." That response, simple as it was, set off a chain of events that would unravel Jack's world like a frayed rope in a stampede. Inside the one-room cabin, the fire crackled in the stone hearth, casting long shadows on the log walls. Jack bolted the door behind them, his eyes never leaving the woman. She ushered the children to the warmth, their small bodies shivering as they stripped off wet moccasins. The boys were twins, identical with wary eyes, and the girl whimpered softly, burying her face in her mother's side. "Name's Jack Harlan," he said gruffly, tossing blankets from his bunk. "You?" "Nate," she replied, her voice soft now in the shelter. "These are my sons, Taza and Dakloji, and my daughter, Lozen." Apache names. Jack's skin prickled. He'd heard tales of Nate, daughter of Cochise himself, but that couldn't be. She was said to be a warrior woman, not this weary mother. What brings an Apache family out in a white man's storm? Nate's eyes flickered to the children, then back to him. "We're running. From my people, and yours." Jack poured coffee from a pot over the fire, handing her a tin cup. "Running from Apaches? That don't make sense." She sipped slowly, the steam rising like spirits. "My husband was killed in a raid. The elders wanted me to marry again, to a man who beats his wives. I refused. They called me a curse. Then white soldiers came, accusing us of stealing cattle. We fled the reservation." Jack nodded, but suspicion gnawed at him. Stories like that were common, but so were traps. He glanced at the window, frosted over. "You picked a hell of a night." As the children warmed, Lozen toddled over to Jack, her tiny hand reaching for his boot. "Horse?" she asked, pointing to a carved wooden toy on the shelf. Jack's throat tightened. That toy had been for his own child, the one who never drew breath. "Yeah, kid. Horse." He handed it to her, and she giggled, the sound like a bell in the tense room. But then, a knock echoed at the door, sharp, insistent. Jack froze. No one should be out here. Necha's face paled, and she pulled the children close. Who is it? Jack called, grabbing his rifle. A muffled voice replied, U.S. Cavalry, open up. Jack's blood ran cold. Cavalry? In this storm? He cracked the door, peering out. 3 soldiers in blue coats stood there, snow-caked, with carbines at the ready. The leader, a sergeant with a scarred cheek, eyed him hard. Seen any Injuns? Apache band escaped the fort. Woman and 3 kids. Dangerous. Jack glanced back at Nach, who shook her head imperceptibly, her eyes pleading. Lie, they said. Protect us. Ain't seen nobody, Jack lied, his voice steady. Just me and the storm. The sergeant narrowed his eyes. Mind if we check inside? Jack's mind raced. If they found her, it'd be a bloodbath. But refusing meant suspicion on him. Suit yourself, but make it quick. Fires low. As the soldiers pushed in, Nach and the children vanished behind a curtained alcove. Jack hadn't even seen her move. The men poked around, finding nothing. All right, Cowboy. Stay vigilant. Them Apaches are killers. They left, mounting up and disappearing into the white void. Jack bolted the door, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold. Nach emerged, gratitude in her eyes. Why did you lie? Jack shrugged. Didn't like their faces. Besides, kids ain't killers. But that night, as the storm raged, Jack couldn't sleep. Whispers from the alcove, Nach singing softly to the children, stirred memories he'd buried deep. And outside, he swore he heard hoofbeats circling, waiting. Dawn broke with a deceptive calm, the snow blanketing the world in white silence. Jack stepped out to check his horses, rifle in hand. The tracks were there, cavalry prints, but mingled with moccasin marks. Apache scouts? His heart hammered. Was Nach leading him into a trap? Back inside, the children played quietly while Nach helped with breakfast, frying bacon over the fire. You have a kind heart, Jack Harlan, she said. Not many white men do. He grunted. Kindness gets you killed out here. As they ate, a shot rang out, close, shattering the peace. Jack bolted to the window. A figure lay in the snow, blood staining the white. One of the soldiers from last night, throat slit ear to ear. God damn, Jack muttered. Ambush. Necha's face hardened. My people. They found us. Before Jack could respond, war whoops pierced the air. Arrows thudded into the cabin walls. The children screamed as Jack shoved them to the floor. Stay down. He returned fire through the shutter slits, dropping 1 Apache warrior. But there were more, 10, maybe 12. Circling on ponies, faces painted for war. Nach grabbed a knife from her belt. I can fight. Jack tossed her his spare pistol. Then do it. The siege began, bullets and arrows flying. Jack's shoulder burned from a graze, but he kept shooting. Taza, the older boy, crawled to him. Mister, they're coming for Mama. The bad man wants her. What bad man? Jack yelled over the din. The one who killed Papa. Chiricahua chief's son. He follows us. A shocking twist. Not just running from elders, but from a vengeful suitor. Jack's mind reeled. Had his lie to the cavalry doomed them all? An arrow pierced the door, embedding in the table. Lozen cried out, a shallow cut on her arm. Nach bandaged it fiercely. We must escape. Jack nodded. There's a root cellar under the floor. Leads to the barn. They pried up the boards, dropping into the dank tunnel. Gunfire echoed above as they crawled, the children whimpering. Emerging in the barn, Jack saddled his fastest horse. All of you, on it. I'll hold them off. Nate shook her head. No. We go together. But as they mounted, the barn door burst open. An Apache warrior charged in, tomahawk raised. Jack fired, but the gun clicked, empty. The warrior lunged, blade slicing air. Nate shot him point blank, the pistol bucking in her hand. The man fell, gurgling. But his face, Jack recognized the features. That's your brother. Nate's eyes filled with tears. No. My husband. He didn't die in the raid. He faked it to hunt us down. Jealous rage. The shock hit Jack like a thunderbolt. Her own husband, alive and vengeful, leading the attack. The betrayal twisted everything. They rode out into the snow, bullets whizzing past. Jack's horse faltered, hit in the flank. They dismounted behind a rocky outcrop, returning fire. The warriors closed in, but then, hoofbeats from the other direction. The cavalry returned, drawn by the gunfire. Chaos erupted, soldiers versus Apaches, bullets flying in a deadly crossfire. Jack shielded the children as Nate picked off attackers. But in the melee, her husband broke through, grabbing Lozen. She's mine, he snarled. Nate screamed, tackling him. They rolled in the snow, knives flashing. Jack aimed, but couldn't shoot without hitting her. With a guttural cry, Nate plunged her blade into his chest. He gasped, eyes widening in shock. Why? You were dead to me long ago, she whispered. He slumped, lifeless. The battle turned, the cavalry overwhelmed the remaining warriors. But as the sergeant approached, rifle raised, he spotted Nate. That's her. The escapee. Jack stepped in front. She's with me. Saved my life. The sergeant hesitated. She's wanted for murder, killed a settler last month. Nate's head snapped up. Lies. It was him, she pointed to the dead man. Framed me. Proof. None. The soldiers advanced, cuffs ready. Jack's mind raced. His response had started this, letting them in. Now, it could end in chains or worse. In a flash, Jack drew his reloaded pistol. Back off, or I drop you. Mutiny against the law. The sergeant laughed. You're harboring fugitives, cowboy. That's a hanging offense. Tension crackled. The children clung to Nate, eyes wide. Then, a shocking revelation, Dakloji pulled a pouch from his coat. Wait. This proves it. Inside, a blood-stained letter, from the dead husband, confessing to the murder to force Nate back. Stolen from his things during their flight. The sergeant read it, face darkening. Damn. This changes everything. He lowered his weapon. All right, ma'am. You're free. But get out of here before more trouble comes. As the cavalry rounded up the surviving Apaches, Jack turned to Nate. Where will you go? West, to the mountains. Start new. She touched his arm. Come with us. Jack looked at the children, at the toy horse Lozen still clutched. His old life, lonely ranch, ghosts of the past, seemed empty now. Yeah. Let's ride. They mounted up, heading into the thawing horizon. But as they crested a hill, a lone rider appeared, another Apache, bow drawn. Traitor, he yelled, arrow flying. It struck Jack in the chest, pain exploding. He fell from the horse, vision blurring. Nate's cry echoed as she fired back, dropping the attacker. Kneeling beside him, tears streaming. Jack, no. He gasped, blood bubbling. Take care of them. But wait, the wound wasn't fatal. The arrow had hit a silver locket in his pocket, his wife's, with her picture. Saved by a ghost. Shocking survival. Jack coughed, sitting up. Guess I'm harder to kill. Nate laughed through tears, bandaging him. The family rode on, bonded by blood and fire. Yet, suspense lingered. In the days that followed, whispers of more pursuers haunted their trail. Jack learned Nate's full story. She wasn't just running from a husband, but from a curse, an ancient Apache legend of a woman who brings death to those she loves. Her parents died young, her siblings in battles. Was Jack next? They holed up in an abandoned mine, the children exploring tunnels while Jack and Nate talked by lantern light. The curse is real, she confessed. Everyone close to me dies. Jack took her hand. I ain't afraid. I've danced with death before. But that night, screams echoed from the depths. Taza had fallen into a shaft, leg broken. As they rescued him, rocks shifted, cave in. Dust choked the air, lanterns flickering. Jack dug frantically, pulling the boy free just as the tunnel collapsed behind them. Close call, too close. Was it the curse? Suspense built as strange events plagued them: poisoned waterhole, where Daklogy nearly drank, a rattlesnake in Lozen's bedroll, defanged by luck, visions in the night of spectral warriors. Jack confronted Nate. This ain't natural. Someone's following us. She nodded, fear in her eyes. The chief's other son. He swore vengeance for his brother. Shocking, another hunter, more ruthless. They pushed on to a ghost town, boarded up saloons and creaking windmills. Hiding in the old sheriff's office, they waited. Footsteps at midnight. Jack ambushed the intruder, a bounty hunter, not Apache. Who's paying you? Jack demanded, knife to throat. The man spat. U.S. Marshal. Says the woman's a spy for Geronimo. Big reward. Twist upon twist. Nate, a spy. She denied it vehemently. Lies to hunt me down. But evidence in the hunter's saddlebags, coded messages, signed with her mark. Forged? Or truth? Suspense peaked as Jack questioned everything. Had his initial response, letting her in, invited a viper into his life? They fled to the Rio Grande, crossing into Mexico under moonlight. But the pursuer caught up, a showdown on the banks. The chief's son, face scarred, pistol drawn. Nate, you belong to the tribe. She stood defiant. I belong to no one. Gunfire erupted. Jack took a bullet to the arm, but dropped the man. As he lay dying, confession spilled, the letters. I forged them. To force you back. The curse. I spread the rumor to isolate you. Shocking revelation, the curse was a lie, manufactured jealousy. With the threat ended, peace settled. Jack, Nate, and the children built a new life in a hidden valley, ranching under blue skies. But one last shock, Lozen, playing by the stream, found gold nuggets. Riches beyond dreams. Jack's response that stormy night hadn't just saved them, it forged a family, turned fugitives into legends. Years passed, the children grew. Taza became a scout, Daklogy a healer, Lozen a fierce rider. Jack and Nate married under Apache rites, their love defying the Wild West. But on quiet nights, Jack wondered, what if he'd said no? The ghosts of what could have been lingered, a suspenseful echo in the wind. The end? Not quite. One day, a stranger rode in, an old cavalryman, the sergeant from long ago. Heard you're alive. Got news, that dead husband. Had a twin. Still out there, plotting. Suspense renewed. The family armed up, ready for the next storm. In the Old West, peace was fleeting, shocks endless.